Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Property Doctor podcast with me, your host, Dr. Andrew Threadgold. Excuse the slightly drowned rat look, but I've just come in and it's the great British summer, so nice weather if you're a duck. Anyway, this week I hope you enjoy the episode because I'm talking to someone that I've watched for a long time, a chap called Terry Blackburn. Those of you that are in property in the northeast will probably know that Terry's pretty successful up here with his property ventures. He does little hotels, he does kind of self-catering accommodation and guest houses, but he's also run finance brokerages and life insurance brokerages and generally a pretty finger in all pies type of guy. Lovely fella as well, by the way. So in this episode we're talking all about sales techniques, selling yourself, setting your own goals, good daily habits, things that you can do that, you know, when you start stacking the habits one on top of the other, they'll actually lead you onto a more successful path. And it's all about mindset as well, you know, and it's all about not being afraid to say, I'll have a go at that and risk being rejected. So I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and we're going to get Terry back on the podcast again at another later date because I didn't even talk about how we write a book because Terry's an author, or running your own business or anything like that. All the sorts of stuff which really float my boat. Anyway, all for now, and I hope you enjoy the episode. See you next time. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Property Doctor podcast with me, your host, Dr. Andrew Threadgold. This week, we've got Terry Blackburn on the podcast. Terry is another property guy. He's definitely in the bracket of entrepreneur. He's bought and sold businesses. He's exited his businesses quite recently. He's got a burgeoning property portfolio. He's even a hotelier, if social media reads correctly. But I'm sure we'll get into all that. But before we do anything, how are you doing, Terry?
I'm always good. Thank you, Andrew. I'm always good. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It's like I say, I've been watching your stuff for a while, and there's quite a few things that stick out when I talk to you. Well, when I watch your stuff, and it's always the way that you come across, and you come across as somebody that's seasoned in speaking to people. And I believe, kind of from your background, kind of that's been your industry, hasn't it? Kind of you've always been a people person.
Yeah, I mean, like I got into sales when I was 19. So I'm 34 now. So I made all my money from sales effectively in various different forms and businesses. But I love chatting to people. And I think when you're in sales, you kind of develop the skill set of being able to speak to anybody, whether they're a CEO or they're a labourer or nothing against labourers at all, by the way, but anybody at any, from the cleaners to the builders to the managing directors to the politicians to anybody, I can speak to anybody, and that's from that's from being seasoned in sales, I think.
Right.
So and I just try and be me on my socials, and I try and put it in my own tone in the way I speak. So that's maybe why it comes across that way. But yeah, no, I certainly think I'm good at communicating.
Yeah, I think you definitely are. And there's a lot of similarities between sales and medicine, funnily enough, because I must speak to 50 people a day when in the doctoring job. And from all walks of life, literally all walks of life. So there's definitely a lot to be said. If you can be approachable, likable, open, and able to communicate, it's a big asset to have, isn't it? But that accent, where you're obviously from Newcastle, but whereabouts?
So I've moved about quite a bit, but I grew up in Throckley.
Right.
So that's where I grew up and moved about a bit to Westerhope, then moved to, where else have we moved to? Morpeth, and then up beside Hexham, and then I moved out when I was 16, and I went to live in Kenton. Then I've lived in Kenton, Gosforth, Great Park, and then I moved to beside Chester, right down the country, a couple of years ago. So I moved out. I'm like a gypsy, but I'm not a
gypsy. Yeah. Wow. So you have moved around a bit. That's but Gosforth, student central in Gosforth.
Yeah. I wasn't a student. I failed everything. I definitely didn't go to university. But no, I lived in Gosforth for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So where does the getting into sales tie into all this moving? How did that happen?
So I was a builder from finishing school at
Really?
16.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was a joiner, carpenter. So that was 16 to 19.
Yeah.
And I hated every single part of that. Absolutely hated it. I was terrible at it. I can't hang pictures, never mind a door. Like I was useless. And I always remember that I used to say to people, and everyone used to laugh, like, I won't be doing this forever. I'm going to do something bigger than this. I literally used to say that at age 16. I don't know why. I don't know if it was an ego thing or if it was a young kid with just a bit of a arrogance about it. I don't know why I used to say that. And I used to say to people, I'll be a millionaire. I won't be doing this much longer. And all the other builders I was working with were like, no, you won't.
Yeah.
We said that back in the day. And look at us now when they're like had metal elbows and
Yeah.
dodgy
Yeah.
knees and dodgy backs and all that. I just remember hating it, and I always said I would do something. And then I got made redundant at age 19 as a joiner, and then I literally made up a CV and I sent it to loads of different jobs. I didn't want to not work, and I got a start for an American insurance company selling life insurance, and
Right.
it was no salary, commission only, cold calling, knocking on doors, selling life insurance,
Oof.
which
That's a tough
anybody
gig.
in sales, it's got to be one of the hardest because life insurance is not a product. There's nothing there. I'm
Yeah.
selling to them something that, heaven forbid, if you died, it would pay a lump of money to your family. People don't want to think about dying, for one. And life insurance is not even there. There's not even a product. It's like if something potentially happens. Um, so it was a hard gig, but I didn't know any different. And within 2 weeks, I sold my tools and I said, I'll never be a builder again because
Really?
I can make money with my voice and my personality opposed to my
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
So that's when it started. Yeah.
Wow. That is a tough gig though. Door to door life insurance. You must have had some doors closed in your face in that kind of gig.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, knocking on doors, people, we were knocking on doors at 8, 9 o'clock at night, cold
Right.
call, trying to sell. Like literally, we used to have a Monday morning meeting every day, 5 days a week at about 9 o'clock. It was at the Marriott Hotel in Gosforth a lot of the time,
Right.
which is now changed right beside the race course. Motivational meeting in the morning. It's all American, and we're singing songs and all this, getting ready for the day. And then they used to say, "Right, Terry, you're in like Blythe today." So I had to go to
500
Blythe.
mile away.
Yeah, and I had to drive there and then literally go around housing estates, knocking on doors, walking into businesses, walking into shops with like a folder, saying this script to them and reeling off a script, trying to sell people life insurance. And literally, I was getting told to F off, piss
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
doors kicked out, basically thrown out of shops, doors slammed in my face. But because I was 19 and I'd never done sales before, I just didn't know if that was the norm. I thought it must have been.
Yeah.
And then my first week I made 500 quid. Second week I made £1,000. And I was used to making like £1,000 a month.
Yeah.
I was like, hold on. Like, and then I started to get recognition, which I've learned one thing about myself is I thrive on that. I
Right.
do thrive on my reputation and recognition and success and being well thought of.
Yeah.
I was just hooked because the money was there and I was money orientated and I was getting a good feeling of recognition, success, and all of that. But yeah, I didn't think it was that hard at the time. But
Yeah.
thinking back, like most people now in sales, if you said to them knocking on doors selling life insurance, 99% of people would run a mile. But
Yeah.
whether it was different back then, I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, it
Well,
was that
it's one of
definitely
them.
give us. Sorry, go on.
No, no, it's one of them, isn't it? If you put yourself in a position, somebody else has to make a decision whether to either tell you to disappear or actually have a conversation with you. And if you've got the tools that you can read people,
Mm,
you obviously had the confidence to do it at the time. Maybe it was the bluster of youth, but
mm.
so how did
Yeah,
that then tie into you starting a business? Because what was you said financial services was your thing.
yeah. So started selling life insurance 19. Then that was for an American company called Combined Insurance Company of America. Worked for them till I was 21, and then no, sorry, about 20. I was only about a year and a half to 2 years I was there. Then I went to MetLife Europe, which was another American company, but it was a European part of it. That was selling life insurance again, and then worked there until I was about 24. Youngest ever sales manager, won loads of awards and all this. Had 50,
Wow.
had 50 people working for us, by the way, at age 21.
Right.
Give
Okay.
you an idea, which is a bit mad when I think back. And then I set up my own company doing mortgages and life insurance, so in financial services when I was 24. And that just took off. Again, the arrogant type kind of ego thing was there, and I was like, I'll be the biggest company in the UK, and everyone laughed at us, everyone took the mick, and we achieved that. We won multiple, nationwide awards over there. All
All
that
right.
cabinets filled with awards. So the biggest life insurance brokers in the country, won that 4 years in a row. Had over 100 odd sales staff. It was just a bit of a wild journey, and that kind of that I made the money in that business and that industry to then start buying property, and then the property
Ah.
kind of flew off. So that was kind of how it all happened. But yeah, I love financial services. It's a great industry to be in. It's lucrative. It's hard, but
Yeah.
it's lucrative. But that got us to where I am now for sure.
Right. Okay. That's fascinating. So there's a lot in that to unpick, isn't there? I mean, just jumping ship first of all, the confidence to jump ship and cut that umbilical cord and go on your own. Presumably, you had like a client book that you took with you that kind of got you a foothold.
Yeah. I mean, we weren't allowed to take the clients, but because I was doing so much business at MetLife, like a lot of people just knew who I was. I mean, to give you an idea, we were doing just me in my own sales. We were doing 10 to 20 new sales a week, so new clients were on board and selling to every single week. I had a team of 50 people, so you can imagine the amount of reach that I was getting, and loads of people just knew who I was doing life insurance. So then I set up myself, put it all over social media. Loads of people contacted us, and it just kind of flourished, recruited like mad, and it just exploded. But I don't know where the confidence just came from, kind of linking it back to sales. When you cold call, you develop a tough skin, and you develop this confidence, because I knew I could just anywhere. I used to say, put me anywhere in the country on any street and I'll sell life insurance
Yeah.
because I was that confident. But that confidence only came from the successes and the experience of doing it time and time again, which you can relate to anything. You can relate to property, to business, to anything. The more you do something and the more successful you become at it, you develop a level of confidence. So I was like, well, I'll set up my own business. I can do that. I'm basically doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't know how big it would get. I knew I would do well because I'd done well for a few years prior to that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it would become as big as it did. But yeah, I think sales give us the confidence in all parts of life, not just business and in sales, in your personal life, in
Yeah.
dating, and finding a partner, and all that. Confidence is every part of your life, right? It's not just business.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a great Grant Cardone book, Sell or Be Sold, or Obsessed
Amazing.
or Be
Love it.
Average, and Be Obsessed or Be Average. There's a lot. I'm going through them myself at the minute. I've read them all once, and I listen to them. I can't read. I can only listen. But
Yeah, I'm a bit like that as well, I must admit. I much prefer to listen, much quicker as well. And
yeah,
you can habit stack, can't you? You can't read a book when you're at the gym. You can't
yeah,
read a book when you're driving, but you can listen to audio. So I'm with you on that.
exactly. Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I've listened to the radio in the car for a couple of years now. It's only, and just think how much content and education and knowledge you can get from doing that. It's mental, isn't it?
100%. A great phrase I heard was Brian Tracy, one of the OGs of like self-development.
Yeah,
He said, turn your car into an office on wheels. And it is that because you're making calls, aren't you?
yeah,
If I'm not making calls, I'm learning something instead of just having it as dead time, which is what a lot of people do. Listen to the
yeah,
radio. It's just complete dead time. Listen to music. And, I often travel from home to Newcastle, which is about 3 hours. So that's just dead time. If I'm doing that 4 times a month,
yeah,
12 hours a month, that's a few days or one
yeah,
day or 2 days work, depending on who you are.
yeah.
Like, why would I just lose that when at least I can do something with it?
Yeah, exactly. And depending on what you're listening to, you can learn the equivalent of a qualification by doing it in that time.
A doctoral degree.
You could do, why not?
You
Yeah,
could, yeah.
absolutely.
You could. If you listen to one audio book a week, that's 52 books effectively that you're reading per year.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you have to read to be a doctor. I imagine it's quite a lot.
Well, I've just got my degrees on eBay. Don't worry about
You bought them.
People are slowly finding that out now.
But you know what I mean? You could get the equivalent like of a doctoral degree in sales or in property or in a specific field that you want to learn about, and you can learn a skill just by not by having any more time in a week or a day. It's just by using the time that you've got in a better way.
Absolutely.
And honestly, if people adapted that habit and they stuck with it over a long enough period of time, I've listened to self-development. You're probably the same. I've listened to self-development stuff well before it was cool, because now it's dead cool to be an entrepreneur and it's cool to put all these stuff on social media. I was doing that when I started in sales when I was 20. It was a CD. Brian Tracy was the first person I listened to.
Yeah.
Like, I was doing it then, and Tony Robbins and them were kicking around.
Yeah. I remember when I was at medical school, I used to have to send off. You used to have to send off for things out of the back of magazines, and you'd get stuff through the post, and you have to physically read it. That's
crazy.
But I'm showing my age there, but that was what, 97, 98 that I was doing stuff like that, self-development,
crazy
mail order. The crackers, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, yeah, because I think they used to do a lot of TV ads, didn't they? Selling these get rich quick things, and then if you bought it, it was then posted. It was a pack of CDs and all that. I bought one of them, and I didn't end up doing anything with it in the end. But I just loved Brian Tracy. He was just for me, because he was sales, and that's what I was trying to learn and perfect that skill set was. But he does time management, he does goal setting, which I'm massive on. And it was all around sales. I absolutely love his content still. I don't know how old he is, but bloody hell.
I think he's the kind of age now,
He's got to be knocking on 90. He has to be.
He's still batting though, isn't he?
Yeah,
still not out.
Fair play to him. Fair play.
You mentioned habits there. Do you are you a believer in small incremental changes through habits and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe habits in every part of your life. Habits going to the gym. A habit can be something as simple as, like, I was speaking to one of my clients the other day about this, about saying he doesn't have enough time. So I said, you need to, like, he's saying he basically works a lot and doesn't have time for his missus. And I was saying, well, like, it's good to have good habits at work in terms of being structured, efficient, good time management, having a good diary system and all of that. But it's just as important to have good habits when you're at home. So when you're with your missus or your partner, like, you shouldn't be answering emails, and you shouldn't be answering phone, you shouldn't be working. And a habit is date night, for example, once a week, committing time to your relationship, because if you're a billionaire and you're unhappy at home, it'll sharp take the shine off how much money you've got if you've got no one to spend it with or no one to spend it on. And like, a good habit is to be a good parent. If you've got children, is to, like, I take my kids when I'm home, I take them to school most days and pick them up most days. Like, that's a habit of mine. So I'll cram on all of my work across 11 companies into a window and still take them to school and pick them up. That's a habit. Like, habits are everything. And a lot of people will get into a habit or get into the swing of doing something, but then they'll stop doing it. Whereas a habit needs to be implemented over a long period of time, so it's ingrained in you. So you should be doing it forever. Like the gym, I'm sorry, but it should be forever. That being healthy,
non-negotiable.
100%. Because if you're not fit and healthy, then nothing else. You're not good at anything else. You're not a good dad. You're not a good partner. You're not a good leader. You're not a good businessman or businesswoman. You're not a good salesperson. You're not a good property investor. If you're unhealthy, you're massively overweight, and you don't train or exercise, your body's not healthy, your mind's not healthy, you're not really good at anything. There's obviously some exceptions to that, but if you generalized, then that's 100% accurate.
Yeah, well, it is. I think it's about small percentages. So, and they all add up, but they don't just 100%. Add up; they compound. So, if you're not very physically fit, it does have an effect, even though you might not notice it or might not think it. It does have an effect on your mental ability. And if you get physically fit, your mental ability might improve by a few percent. But then the other habits that you have that all feed into that, each of those 1%, is 1 + 1. It isn't 2, it's 4, because they compound. And it's only when you start unlocking that and actually practicing it and getting there that you notice those big changes that you can make from yourself. It all goes back into the audiobook, learning stuff, stuff that you learn when you're driving the car, you might then implement. And that habit of learning something in the car then might lead you to do something different in your life, which completely changes the course of your life. That I can't remember the book, but they talk about, you know, make a 3-degree change in a flight path from Miami to New York, and you'll end up in London or something. You know,
somewhere.
something
Definitely.
like that. It's madness, but small changes add up, don't they?
100%. And I think that's overlooked because people think they'll do a couple of small things in the right direction, but then they don't see a result instantly because people are too impatient these days, and then they give up. But if you keep making those changes, and it's not just keep making them, it's doing them over a long enough time span. That's what people miss because they give up too easy.
Yeah.
I think, again, linking that back to sales, because we are knocking 100 doors to get one sale, right? That was the ratio.
Yeah. Don't surprise me.
Getting 99 piss offs, F off, and no's and all that, and I just developed the tough skin, but also it was just ingrained in me from an early age that I had to keep going at something to get a result. So you can relate that to the gym. So don't just do one gym session and expect to have a 6-pack. It doesn't work like that. You've got to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it until you look a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's the same in business. You've got to do loads of viewings to get a property that meets your strategy, that's below market value enough, that's this or that. It's the same with business, about recruitment, about sales, about marketing. It's all the same. People just give in far too easy because they don't see an instant result. So I'm so grateful that I got into sales, honestly, because it made us who I am. For sure.
Yeah, and I think showing up every day and being consistent can, you know, that kind of thing does bring opportunities to you. If you're active, opportunity seems to find its way towards you. Now, I think I caught you there saying that you've currently got 11 companies. Is that right?
Yeah.
Across what kind of what sectors are these companies in that you run?
Yeah, so there's some SPVs with buy-to-lets and HMOs. There's hotels you mentioned. I've got 4 hotels in the process of selling 1. So there'll be 3 hotels. There's 4 currently. A glamping site, a cafe, a bar and restaurant, a letting agency, an eco construction business. What else have I got going on? The coaching, the podcast, the books. There's quite a bit going on, to be fair. I'm keeping myself busy, that's for sure.
But people haven't got the time to do things.
Well, yeah, but that's a good point though, right? So probably the most common question I get asked is, how do I do all the things that I do all at the same time? And I'm not some sort of genius in any way. Like, I'm really not. And there's people achieving a hell of a lot more than me, by the way. That there definitely is. But the way I achieve everything is my health comes first. So I'm really structured in my Gmail diary, Google Calendar. But the first thing I put in there every single week, non-negotiable, is something for me. So that's gym. It's walking. It's, you know, eating right. That's the first thing that goes in, because I know that imagine building a tower. This is the foundation. If the foundation's wrong, you'll get the tower to a certain height and it'll topple. But if the foundations are strong enough, it's not going to topple. So health is the foundation. And then I'm just ultra structured on my diary. Like, and what I do is typically on a Monday, I have a meeting with my senior staff in the businesses and we'll plan for the week ahead. I then have a check-in call on Wednesday, which doesn't take very long at all. That's just how's things going, are you on track? Friday, it's check out. So it's very much, if we're done what we said we're going to do for the week. If not, right, like, what's the plan for next week? And we're almost planning. And literally, I just have meetings, because you can't manage. Like, at one point, there was 150-ish staff that had across everything. Like, you can't manage 150 people directly. It's impossible. No. So you have to manage the key members of staff who then manage the people underneath them. So every Monday, I typically just have meetings with the team, plan. We use Google Sheets and various different documents to work from. We'll have like 90-day plans. So everything's mapped out and planned. Everyone knows who's going to be doing what. And that's how I run all these companies, because I just manage the senior team who are very capable.
Yeah.
Who then manage the people underneath them, and we're ultra structured. And that's definitely one of my skill sets is I can flick between things and manage heavy workloads. And I've got a good memory. I don't forget much.
Yet.
To my detriment sometimes. And I think that's the key to it, is just, but honestly, if I haven't trained or exercised for 3 days, I'm a nightmare.
Yeah, you'll
Honestly,
know it. Yeah.
I forget stuff. I don't make good decisions. I'm quite abrupt. I'm grumpy.
Yeah.
Like that's how I do what I do. There's no special or secret to it. It's just keeping sharp and being structured.
Yeah. Did you always
Um,
have fitness as a non-negotiable, or have you found that as you've kind of matured?
Definitely not. Honestly, at school, I was really skinny, and I was like, I used to make up excuses not to do PE. Like that was me, because I was too busy smoking and getting up to no good at school. Like that, I was a nightmare. And it was only probably 16ish when I started going to the gym and stuff. And I haven't really stopped. I can't ever remember a week where I haven't trained sort of three times minimum.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I just love it. Well, I love the feeling. I love feeling healthy. I don't particularly love
No,
the actual
it's when you've done a
exercises.
workout that you feel better for it,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. The
You don't sit there
endorphin.
cranking reps out and think, "Oh, yes."
Yeah, no, definitely not. And doing like legs and stuff, I absolutely hate half
Yeah,
of the time.
yeah.
I
But
love looking.
afterwards, when you sat there after you shower, you think, "Oh, aye, that's all right."
Yeah, I love seeing progress as well, and this is a good point. I truly believe that progress equals happiness, and when you're progressing and you realize you're progressing and you see it or you feel it or someone else tells you about it, like that for me is one of the best feelings you can get.
Mhm.
And the good thing about that is you're in control of that. So the more you do of a certain thing, the more you progress. Therefore, you're getting happier in a
Yeah,
way, or you're getting that feeling of happiness because you look in the mirror and you see you're looking better, or someone comments that you're looking better, and like, or you see your bank balance growing, or your tax bill is growing a lot of the time when you're in
yeah.
business. You've got to get nice and tax efficient, but you see the business growing, whether that's more sales, more income, more recruitment, more recognition, more rewards, or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
I believe that's what I chase, because it's not really about the money anymore. Although I'm still money driven, it's more about the progress for me.
yeah. And I think in order to progress, you need to know where you're going. And
Mm,
I'm a big believer in goal setting, and I think goal
yeah.
setting is something that needs practice. I don't think
Mm,
you get the art of goal setting right, and I don't think I've got it right. But I think as I'm getting further down the line, I'm refining how I do it, and it's
mm.
individual as well. Some people respond differently to different types of goals. But are you a goal setter, and do you how do you set your goals, and how do you break them up?
100% I'm a goal setter. And that's something that I learned from Brian Tracy when I was 19. And like before that, I was like, the only goal I'd ever set was a New Year's resolution that
Yeah.
you never continue with for like after the end of January. But yeah, I learned about goals back then, and I still do some of the stuff that he talks about now. I've got affirmation cards stuck up. I write down my goals most mornings.
Affirmation.
Certain,
Do you are you an aff do you practice affirmation?
yeah. I must admit, I do them less than I used to. There was a stage where I was literally, as I was getting ready, they were stuck up in like my room that I used to get ready in one of my old houses, and I used to shout them dead loud in the morning. I went to that extent of doing
Right.
that. I must admit, probably for the past 2 years, I don't really shout them anymore.
Yeah.
But I've got affirmation cards. I've got goals on my phone, on my laptop. I've got them on a board there. I've got a vision board. I do all of that. I'm not as big into that as I used to be, because I think you go through stages in your life of maybe thinking differently, and you
Mm.
evolve and develop. But I've always had goals. I'll never stop having goals, and I set them personally, professionally. I have a goal in every single business that I'm involved in. I have fitness goals, holiday goals,
Mm.
relationship goals, personal goals, income goals. I'm really, really big on goals. Um, and I don't ever want to stop that habit,
Mm.
because whether it's against, I know we're talking about sales quite a lot here, but whether it's
No,
the
no.
salesperson in is still, like in sales, you need a target. That's how many sales you've got to do a day or a week or a month. And that's just how my mind works. So if I haven't got a line in the sand or a measuring stick or something there, I lose a bit of get up and go for that particular
Mm.
business or part of my life, I need something to work towards me. That's just how I work, how my
Yeah.
mind is.
Yeah.
And generally, before I've even got to the goal, I've set the next one. And it's like, if it was 10 properties at the start, before I think I was up to 8 or 9, and it was already went to 20. And then before I was at 20, when I was at 18 and 19, it was like 50. So then
Yeah.
it just but it keeps you focused, keeps you
Yeah.
on track, keeps you motivated. But honestly, goals, why people don't set goals is beyond me.
It's a funny thing, goals, because I've noticed that if you write something down and put it out there, it's almost like even if you don't necessarily concentrate on it, you've got more chance of that thing happening. It's like that's a weird thing that I don't know.
100%. I
It's
mean,
weird.
Brian Tracy said you're in the top 3% of achievers. I don't know how accurate that stat is, but just by writing the goals down, having them written goals, not on your phone, I mean, written on a bit of paper, you're into the top 3% of achievers just by doing that. It's probably not far off being accurate, that I wouldn't say, because loads of people don't write them down. They've got them up here, but then they forget. I think there's something about when you physically write it with a pen, because you're forcing your brain to think about the letters that you write in, and you're forcing it into your brain, aren't you?
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
you're forming a
honestly,
contract between yourself and yourself that you subconsciously then work towards. I think it's
definitely.
goal setting's really powerful, and I think it probably has changed the direction of my life. And just as I say, by writing things down, sometimes things just happen that
They do.
it's very strange. But I mean, we're talking about sales quite heavily, and obviously you're from a sales background. When you're thinking about sales, are there specific techniques or are there a few pointers that you think everybody should know in order to be able to sell themselves better or to interact better?
Yeah, definitely. There's some staples that apply to being a property investor, being a businessman, being a good partner, being a good dad, everything, because you've got to sell it. You can sell products and services depending on the business that you're in, but you can also sell yourself to an investor, for example, or you're selling an idea, a concept, a JV, or if you want to go to this restaurant and she wants to go to this restaurant, somebody's winning there. So if you end up going to the restaurant that you want, you're selling to her why you should go to this restaurant. It's nice food, it's good reviews, whatever. If you go to her one, then she's done the same to you.
Yeah.
There's a different dynamic of obviously relationships there. Some people just let the wife win, but that might come into play. But you get the point. So everybody is selling all of the time. So it is definitely a skill that you should learn and get better at, because it will impact pretty much all parts of your life. So the staples to it are, if it's in person, over the phone sales and in person is different.
Yeah.
But when you're in person trying to persuade someone to do something or sell a concept, a product, a service, or whatever, body language is huge. Eye contact is huge. Smiling is huge. 80% of the way that you look is your clothes. So you need to be dressed appropriately. You don't need to be in a three-piece suit, obviously, all the time. But if you're looking scruffy, like if you're trying to sell a product or a service, you're fighting a losing battle straight away.
Yeah.
Eye contact. Have you ever met someone and they're a bit shifty and they're looking down or they're looking to the side, they won't look at you properly. Your subconscious is saying that person's not trustworthy.
Yeah.
Just by the eye contact, your tone of voice and your tonality is more important than what you actually say. So I could be speaking to you like this and all being all monotone, and you're not going to engage with me. And the listeners would have probably turned off by now if I was all monotone, because you bore people, don't you?
Yeah.
So your tone of voice and your tonality is huge, and emphasizing on certain words up and down with your tone is massive. And there's just to summarize those points, is a phrase that I use quite a bit is like, listen, trust, buy. Okay. So in order for someone to buy something, you've got to make them like you first. So you make people like you by smiling, body language, eye contact, jokes, how you communicate, how you introduce yourself, and all of that. Like, they've got to like you first, and if they like you, they'll start to listen to you. So when they start to listen to you, that's when you do your selling effectively of whatever you're pitching or talking about. So you've got to say the right thing there in the right way. And then if you've said the right thing, they'll start to trust you. And then and only then will they buy or invest or do whatever you're trying to get them to do. So like them, they've got to like you first, then they'll start to listen to you. And then once they like you and they've started to listen to you, they'll start to trust you, and then they'll buy. So that's a staple across any sales environment. Like, listen, trust, buy.
Yeah, I like that. And obviously within each of those little staples there's a whole suite of things that you need to work on. I mean, everybody has a range of those naturally, I imagine. Or maybe some people don't have some, but they're stronger in others. But unless they're all kind of synchronized somehow, then that's that again. That speaks to personal development. Some people are naturally very gifted at some things, but they're very deficient in others, and that's where mentoring comes in, isn't it? Where you can try and pull the best bits and make everything operate a lot better, more smoothly. Do you do things 100%. Like mentoring and training and things like that if anybody's liking what they're hearing?
Yeah, definitely. So I got asked for a couple. I only started my social media in 2020, and I used to get pitched people used to ask me quite a bit, would you mentor us and this and that? And I used to say no for quite a bit. And I only started mentoring people the start of this year properly. That's really took off. We've got some sales courses coming live, sales training coming live as well. But I've kind of coached people in my businesses for years, coaching them on, because when you're the director and you're managing people, you're kind of coaching them anyway. You'll probably experience this being a doctor as well. You're a mix between a counselor and a friend and an advice line. You kind of do it all, don't you? And that's kind of similar to coaching. And coaching and mentoring is slightly different. There's giving them the advice, but then there's telling them how to implement the advice to get the desired result. And I think I've done that pretty much. I was running teams since I was 20, so I've got quite a bit of experience in that. So I'm enjoying the mentoring. A lot of the guys are getting results from it already. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, fantastic. And then, so just to come back full circle again, you spoke about your business that you grew. What kind of size did it get to before you exited?
So Bespoke, we turned over a few million, and there was, like I say, there was quite a lot of sales staff. We had different branches set up all over the place. People had their own companies within the company. It was a real quirky structure because all of the staff, the sales staff, were self-employed. They were kind of running their own business within our business as like mini franchises, all using the same brand.
Yeah.
It was a quirky setup, but it was a big organization. We had ops managers, sales directors, sales trainers, office managers, loads of admin, team leaders, chasers, team managers, sales managers. We had loads. It was a big structure. And it was the biggest life insurance brokers in the UK up until last year. I think it still is actually.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I don't want to know numbers, but I'm very interested in the deal when you exited, because at the minute I'm currently buying businesses myself in various different sectors. So I presume that something that's that kind of size, you sold it on a multiple of its EBIT, with an upfront payment and some deferred consideration. Was that the structure?
No, I mean that's the norm. That's the norm, isn't it? But it wasn't. I've signed an NDA, so I can't.
I don't want to know the numbers. I've just
but it was a creative sale, so I still actually own the limited company. I have to be careful.
Doesn't matter if you can't tell me. Don't.
Yeah, it was a creative deal. It wasn't the norm, but I did, 7 figures off it. It was a good deal.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was right for me at the time because it was the right stage in my life to move on. I always knew that. Well, I didn't always know, but certainly probably for the past 5-6 years, I thought that I was going to go on to something bigger and something different. Whereas at the start, when I was 19, 20, I thought it was all I would do for the rest of my life. But so it was a good deal. And the business is still running really successfully from what I understand.
And are you looking at buying businesses yourself, or are you more concentrated on the stuff that you're doing?
Someone asked us this question the other day. Certainly not at the moment, because I've got enough on my plate with the stuff I've already got.
Yeah.
But I probably think I've done a lot of soul searching in the past year, and I've changed a lot in terms of I want different things in life now. I want an easier life, and I want lean businesses with less staff, high margin, high profit, low overhead businesses is what I'm trying to get involved in. So I've got to condense what I've currently got and focus on a few different things. So I'll probably condense the businesses that I've got over the next few years. And then I do quite like the idea of buying something that where I can add value quite quickly and sell on quite quickly. You know, someone said to us the other day as well, like, businesses don't last forever. And I think that's a good phrase. And some people think that they do. Some people think if they set up a business, it's forever. It's not. Businesses do have a shelf life and things do change, and there's nothing wrong with selling businesses. And that's why you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, because if you did and something happens to it, then you're kind of screwed. So I'll always diversify. I'll always do different things. I probably will buy businesses at some point, add value and sell them on. Certainly for the next few years, I've got enough on my plate.
Yeah, it
with
sounds
what
like
I've got.
it. Yeah, I mean, I have too, trying to get our property businesses, you know, expanding at a decent rate of knots, but at the same time, just like you know, have a lot of stuff going on, and one of them is buying businesses, and the idea is that, similar to yourself, I won't be running them. I will be the strategic and cultural and all the rest of it director, and manage the leadership team, build a group, multiple streams of income, business, property, whatever. Definitely. You know what I mean? All the usual stuff. But I just found it, because you've exited, I just found it interesting to see how it was from your perspective. But I love a creative deal as well. And I think 80% of businesses, well, I know that 80% of businesses never sell. Most founders never sell their business because they don't have a succession plan, or they don't think anybody can run it the same as them. So they don't sell, and they just get folded at the end. Whereas what I'm trying to do is find those people that have businesses, and rather than fold them, I'll give you a few quid for it and take it over. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely. I mean, a great one on that is, in I heard this phrase a good few years back, and that sparked my interest in selling businesses. And someone said to us, if you could have 6 months off work, or if you had 6 months off work, would your business still run the same as it runs now? And I said, absolutely not. This was back, you know, a good few years back, talking about bespoke. And I was like, well, no way, probably 2 weeks and it would be chaos. And the guy said to us, like, well, you don't have a business then. And I was like, shit, like he's right.
You've just got a well-paid job.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a high-paid, high-stress job, and you're working for a lunatic, which is yourself, right? So then it was like so how do I solve this? So then I went on my self-development stuff, as I always do, learning, watching videos on YouTube, reading up about it. Systems and processes are the answer, and leveraging yourself out, just like you leverage the bank's money when you're buying a property. You need to leverage yourself out, but you need to remove the ego, which is what a lot of people don't do, because they think, well, it's my business, I run everything, I tell everyone what to do, I dip it in and out of everything comes through me. And that's probably the worst thing you can do, certainly if you're looking to sell off your business. So systems and processes became a massive focus of mine at the time. So how-to guides, manuals, using technology. So I implemented that into all the businesses, then built all we done like an organization chart. So you as the MD at the top, but then who's underneath you, who you report to, then who reports to them, and then further down. And it's not sellable if it's you. No. If it's just you and everything comes to you, it's not sellable, because nobody buying it would think, because if they buy it, they remove you.
Yeah.
So then if it's not going to run and grow, that's another thing. Getting it running without you is one thing. Getting it running and growing without you is another thing.
And that's where sales comes in.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You've got to increase the top line.
If sales doesn't happen in any business, then it's not working. And yes, you can automate sales, you can have online sales and all of these type things, but you've still got to sell it in some way, whether that's through affiliate marketing, PPC, SEO, social media, whether it's just your website, but you've got to get people to your website. It's all sales in different degrees. It doesn't always have to be you pitching someone. You still got to sell them on an idea or a concept, or get them to your site in the first place. But yeah, it's like if you can get good at putting systems and processes in place, then you're going to win in business.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to win in business.
Yeah.
And automating things is massive as well.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to have another episode, because we could go on for another hour about, hiring at the right time, hiring probably before you're ready, spending money on the right people, to getting rid of the ego. All that stuff is a whole nother episode.
Definitely.
And I think we're just getting started. But I think I've taken enough of your time up, mate. So if people want to find you, where can they get the legend that is Terry?
Thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, I'm up for an episode 2, by the way.
Thank
We'll
you.
do something specific on some of your listeners.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Want to hear about. Yeah, Instagram's Terry_Blackburn_property. There's loads of these scammers about, so it's the only one with the blue tick. Loads of these. I do not
you've
sell
gone for the blue
Bitcoin.
tick, have you?
Yeah, just because like I don't sell. Honestly, there's the amount of messages I get, people saying, Terry, there's this account, and I'm like, no exaggeration. There's been points where it's been 5 to 10 messages a day where this other person, whoever it is sending people messages about crypto and about loads of
God.
So I'm in favor of the blue tick, because people know there's only one account.
Yeah.
So Terry_Blackburn_property, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, it's all the same. Terry Blackburn Property.
And you've got a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, yes, I put all the Rags to Riches stuff on there, and I'm starting to do a lot of more solo stuff. So share my knowledge and my sort of thoughts on sales, business, and properties on YouTube as well.
Fantastic. I would recommend everybody goes and has a little stalk through Terry's social media.
And Be a Lion and The Power of Peas are both on Amazon as well.
Oh, we didn't even get onto your books either. Yes, yes. We need an episode 2, definitely.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, mate. That's been absolutely awesome. I've loved it. Thanks very much.
No, thank you. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.